Alright, it's fine. Okay, so today I want to talk about the prerequisite problem in mathematics education. Alright, so when it comes to math, some of you guys might look at this and feel a couple of these feelings like anxiety, frustration, and just think, I can't do that. I can't do that. Math is too much. It's not for me. And you could have been part of this problem and just don't know it. So the idea is math builds on itself. So if you go in and you learn how to do 1 plus 1, 2 plus 2, 3 plus 3, now you can use that to understand how multiplication works. Multiplication builds on addition. So the idea is, for math, every step you take, every step up, requires you to know the step below it. That's kind of what the prerequisites are. And the issue is, a lot of times students go into the next math class not knowing the math that was supposed to be taught to them beforehand. They don't really master it. So they go into this next step really struggling. Okay, so why is it a big deal? First off, students can't progress. So you have somebody that goes through elementary school to get passing grades, it's fine. But once you get to high school, then you can actually fail a course. And the thing is, you could fail the first one and think, okay, maybe I can retake it. But you can't really retake it because you don't know the material you need to know beforehand. So once you don't know the material, you're kind of stuck not being able to progress at all. So that's kind of what happens here. Students who fall behind become more and more confused, can't catch back up. And the thing is, when you have one student in a class that can't catch back up, the teacher is often going to be too busy to help that one student because you don't know how far behind they already are. They could be stuck in grade 3 math. Maybe extreme example, but I've seen it. So, confused students, frustrated, upset, associate anxiety and everything with the topic. And it's not that they can't do it, now they just don't want to. Now they're scared of it. Big problem there. And then a lot of subjects build on math. So if you want to go into engineering or any type of science, you want to be a doctor, you have to go through calculus. You have to go through all these different types of math. And if you give up on high school math, you're not going to keep going for the rest of them. So big issue there. Kids not going to be okay with learning math, okay with tackling this subject. Okay, so how do they fall behind? It could be simply they need more time to understand the subject. So not everybody processes these ideas at the same rate. Okay? Next one, missed classes. We've all had that one. We've seen the memes. I was tempted to put a couple memes in here. We miss one day of class and they're on quantum mechanics, who knows? Misaligned curriculum. So that's kind of where, if you have a new teacher come in and they can assume that students learned something previously, so they start building on knowledge that the kids don't have yet. So we got to kind of, if that's an issue in a class that you teach or something, you got to relook at what was taught previously. And that kind of transfers students. So a student that comes from a different school, they weren't doing the same curriculum, so they could have completely different knowledge, starting from a completely different spot. Ooh, this is a big one. So teachers' lack of knowledge. This one I'll talk more later, but the issue is, especially in elementary school. So a teacher in elementary school doesn't necessarily have to take all the math courses. They actually teach. They're just teaching at the base level. So this is a big issue because they don't know what they're talking about sometimes, or just barely. And the next one's the math gene, which is something I'll talk about later, but the idea is they believe people that are good at math do so because they were just born to know it. Nobody really is. Okay, so misaligned curriculum. Kind of talked about this already. So they assume that students already learned a topic and they begin building a knowledge that's not already there. So what we need to do is kind of make sure that all those ideas are built upon already. Kind of look at the curriculum, how it's built. Transfer students, just like the other one, they don't have the knowledge. So a fix to that might be just having the teacher spend more time and build a plan. I know a teacher may not have enough time to actually talk to them and figure this out, but some kind of plan has to be built. Maybe they can do something on their own time. Here's the lack of teacher knowledge I was talking about. So, teachers aren't immune to this, right? So teachers will go through schooling, and they might have actually had the prerequisite problem themselves. They may have gone through schooling not knowing the required material and started hating this math stuff and building all these negative ideas about it. So, why is this a problem? the details that teachers know about their math could be essential for a student to understand what they're actually learning. I don't got anything here. But like a triangle, how to figure out the angles on a triangle. Okay, a teacher can teach how to do that. But then they may not understand why Pythagorean's theorem works. They may not understand the squares around it. And that might be the key to the kids' understanding for them to actually get what's going on and why this works. So they might be stuck not being able to understand, and the teacher doesn't have the required knowledge. They don't have that next step to be able to explain it in a different way. So this isn't just me spewing this out there. There's been researches on this, and one of the reports actually talks about this being exactly what I was just talking about. So the solutions. These are just things I came up with. You guys are smart as well. So if you ever have these issues, I'm sure you can think of something as well. So qualified math teachers sit in on lessons. So they could sit in the back and say, okay, you missed this, or kid asks a question the teacher can't answer. They might be able to answer it. And just have qualified math teachers teach the lessons entirely. That's another option. And then on top of that, I know they probably don't want to, but they could take additional math courses. All right, here's that math dream I was talking about. So, if a kid's sitting in class and they're struggling, but the kid next to them is doing great, flying through these courses, they may think, okay, I can't do this. This kid, he was born different. He knows what's going on, and I'm just not built for it. So they give up. They give up entirely. So they believing they're incapable of learning a subject, which is not ideal. We talked about it. If they start giving up, they start falling more behind, and it's just a slippery slope, right? Okay, so I'm not the only one. This term has been coined by Sheila Carey at the University of Houston, so it's not mine. And, one thing we can do, just remind students, it's very simple, just remind students, everyone can do math. Don't be like, okay, yeah, that's Jimmy, Jimmy's great, you guys should be like Jimmy. No, we're all great at math. We just take our own pace, okay? All right, what we can do. So the biggest thing would be prevention entirely in the elementary school, but we can't prevent it all the time, so remediation in high school. So in elementary school, creating more engaging lessons, that can be difficult with the subject, but it is possible. And then building intuition by explaining steps. That is a big one. So while you're learning math, you might be just following these steps and going through it and not knowing why it works. So adding the additional little sentence after they do their little bit of math, explaining why they're doing the steps, builds a better understanding of what's going on behind the scenes. And then in high school, I wanted to make a little class idea where it's kind of devoted to catching up to all the math they missed in elementary. So it could be tailored to each student. And then changing the way math is taught in the high school. We'll see what you guys think about that. Classically, a math class is kind of taught, teacher standing at the front, drawing stuff on the board, explaining these steps. Whereas I find that, for me at least, I don't find that super beneficial. And a lot of the profs online, like I go to the MIT OpenCourseWare and everything, and they teach things a lot better than any of my profs actually do. And the idea is maybe we could have a teacher at the front that doesn't necessarily teach the class, but provides a pathway. Okay, here's where you want to be at the end. Here's a bunch of steps that you can take. Here's resources you can use. And they go around and kind of like help each student as they go on their own math journey at their own pace. So they're not struggling to get like caught up with Jimmy next to them, right? So that's the idea. Each person is kind of working at their own pace, following this little curriculum that the teacher built, and looking online for different resources. And the teacher's here to ask questions or answer questions and help them build a deeper understanding. So, here's the benefits. They work at their own pace. They spend the time they need to with each topic. And since they spend the time with each topic, they get to actually understand and know what's going on, and it prevents anyone from falling behind. It may take them a longer time, but at least they know everything. And then, downfalls. I know there's downfalls of this. Learning online, not ideal. So, maybe that's not going to work. I don't know. I haven't tried it. But if you have a student that's not motivated to actually learn, they're not going to go through the process of learning the topic. They might just sit there on YouTube or something, right? Big issue there. And if a student takes too long and doesn't get through all the material at the end of the term, then they kind of have to keep picking up where they left off. Okay, conclusion. We made it to the end. Okay, so students who get through high school may have not the abilities to do the math that they're supposed to do. So maybe some of the ideas would be to implement different courses or a little catch-up course or change the way it's taught. But either way, we got to make some kind of change, get rid of this math problem because it's hindering students' futures. Because math is a big deal for every career. And I guess the science, not every career, but sciences, engineering, a lot of important things that you'll go to university for. So if we don't do something about this, it really affects a lot of kids' futures. I want to do a little activity with you guys, if you don't mind. Give me just a couple minutes. What I'm going to get you to do is, I'm going to give you a test. Treat it as though it's a real test. So I want you guys to go through this test and actually try to answer all the questions, okay? Do your best. And at the end, I'll talk to you and we'll take it up, okay? Okay, so I need a little input from you guys. How'd you find it?
Difficult at the end.
Yeah, so the very first question, how'd you guys find it?
Easy.
Easy? It was like, came to you no problem. I think the first question was what, like 1 + 1? Some addition thing?
Yeah,
okay.
Like 2 + 2 or something.
So was there a point where you kind of started struggling? Like, oh, I don't know about this one. You had to really think about it?
Yeah.
So around those ones, like a lot of these, the point of these is they should be really simple. If you have the required understanding, they should be like that, instant. And that's kind of what, say students go into high school, they should have these ideas instantly, bang, no problem, because then we're building upon those. What's the question you guys struggle with? Did you get the last, say number 10 or
No.
11? 10 or 11, did you get one of those?
I didn't get the slope one either.
Didn't get the slope one? What was the slope one? Was that the C one? Okay, so if you wanted to find C, you have a triangle 1, 1, that's a 90-degree angle. If you knew your special triangles, you already know it's square root of 2. And then question done, C equals square root of 2. That's the point of these questions, is if you know, is pretty much how it works. If you know this stuff, then going on to the next step is no problem. And this is just a test for you guys. Like I was saying, like, okay, if you don't get this, your history class, you failed it, right? It's gonna be stressful. You don't know this stuff. When looking at this, spending forever on a question that should take 2 seconds, it's gonna be stressful. And these kids should have the opportunity to actually understand what's going on so they can move on to the next thing.